After spending a decade grinding away at dead-end jobs, I finally picked up enough skills to make a living as a business consultant. Over the years, I developed a solid expertise that allowed me to find work on my own terms. Or rather, these days, after 4 years of hustling to build connections, work tends to find me. It keeps me busy about half the time, which leaves me with more free time than most folks. In that free time, I've got a hobby that's both fun and a little profitable. I spend my days off scouring antique shops and flea markets, buying items on the cheap and flipping them to dealers or selling them on eBay. In the business, people like me are called pickers. I've got a handful of niche collectibles I focus on, but one of my favorite areas is old weapons. Not so much guns, but edged weapons like knives, swords, and other handcrafted tools. I'm also drawn to artisan-made items like powder horns and other rugged, guy stuff. I don't make a fortune from it, but it's a fun gig, and the best part? It's all cash, which makes it invisible to both the IRS and my wife. For my personal collection, I'm especially fond of handcrafted weapons, things like charls, saps, and brass knuckles. Chails are wooden clubs, often carved or decorated, sometimes with ties to old gang activity. Saps are compact, leather-wrapped bludgeons filled with lead shot, flexible enough to fold into a pocket but brutal when swung. They're about a foot long when in use. Then there are brass knuckles, crafted through casting, welding, blacksmithing, or machining. Most of the common ones were slapped together by kids in shop class, but the rare, well-made pieces? They're like functional pieces of art and tough to come by. My wife, Olivia, works as an accountant in a big office. She's not crazy about the job, but she enjoys the social side. Being part of a larger organization, having co-workers she bonds with. Over the 6 or 7 years she's been there, I've heard all about her office friends, like Anna and Alona. Our dinner conversations often drift to stories about them, office gossip, and the usual rants about upper management's dumb decisions. So, when a new manager came on board, Mark Wolf, it wasn't all that remarkable at first. His name started popping up in our evening chats. He was a couple of rungs above Olivia on the corporate ladder, though with all the matrix management nonsense, it's hard to tell who reports to whom. To Olivia, Mark was a breath of fresh air compared to the fool he replaced. She was convinced he'd fix the company's problems, avoid making mistakes, and basically run things the way she thought they should be run. A few weeks later, after yet another glowing report about Mark's brilliant leadership, I casually remarked, new managers often play nice at first. Kiss up to everyone, learn the ropes, then once they've got the lay of the land, they drop the hammer. Fire some folks, tighten the screws on the rest. It's kind of their thing. To my surprise, Olivia snapped. 1 minute it was light conversation. The next she was shouting like I'd insulted her personally. How dare you say that about someone you've never even met? Mark isn't like that. Never would be. You're just being negative and undermining my confidence. She punctuated her outburst by slamming her napkin onto her plate and storming off to the bedroom, slamming the door behind her. Clearly, I'd hit a nerve. Oh well, at least she'd already cleaned her plate, sopping up the last of her dinner with a piece of Irish soda bread, so she wouldn't go to bed hungry. But yeah, seemed like Olivia had a bit of a crush on Mark. She cooled off after a day or two, but interestingly enough, Mark's name never came up again at dinner. A few days later, we got a call that shook us to the core. It was around midnight when Olivia's phone rang. It was her best friend, Karen, sobbing hysterically. Please come over right now. Austin's been attacked. He's hurt, and I'm scared. Olivia looked at me, panicked. She says Austin was assaulted outside their house. What should I tell her? Tell her to call the cops, I said, already getting dressed. She says Austin won't let her. Tell her to do it anyway. They'll get there faster than we can. We were in the car within minutes, speeding the 7 miles to their place. Olivia stayed on the phone with her friend the entire time, keeping her calm, just in case whoever did this came back. We barely rolled to a stop before Olivia flung the car door open and nearly took it off its hinges in her rush to get inside. Austin works the late shift and usually gets home around 11:30. That night, as he walked up to his back door, someone ambushed him, beat the hell out of him with what looked like a club or bat. When we got there, he was in agony but adamant. No police. No hospital. Listening to him groan in pain, I knew he had broken ribs, maybe worse. We tried to give him some water, and that's when I noticed the groove on his finger. His wedding ring was missing. He howled when we tried to help him move. It was bad. I told him flat out, "You've got broken ribs for sure. You're not skipping the hospital. That's not negotiable. Punctured lungs can kill you." While the women called an ambulance, I leaned in close and whispered, "Did you take off your wedding ring? Or did your attacker?" "They robbed me," he mumbled. "Right. But your wallet's still in your pocket. And they left your watch, too. Look, whoever did this might come after your wife next. If I have time to warn her, I can help." "So, who did this?" "I didn't see who it was." "Come on, man. If you know, just tell me." I said, "I don't know." "Fine. Everyone has the right to stay silent." When the paramedics arrived, Austin stuck to his story, said he was walking up to the door, felt like he got hit with a taser, went down without a sound, then got worked over, mostly in the ribs and groin. No idea who'd want to do this, he claimed. Olivia and Karen went with him to the hospital. I stayed behind to watch over their kids. The boys eventually went back to bed, and around 3 a.m., the women came home. Austin was going to be okay, but he was in serious pain. No new information about who attacked him. I said, "I can narrow it down to 3 people. Karen's eyes widened. "What? How do you know?" "Simple. Look at the facts. It happened at 11:30, in his own yard, in a neighborhood with virtually zero crime. So it wasn't random. The attacker knew his routine, planned it. That means motive." They nodded silently. "Second," I continued, "the groin injuries weren't just random hits. That's personal. Someone wanted to send a message, something sexual." Karen's face turned pale. "And third, they took his wedding ring but left his wallet and watch. This wasn't a robbery. This was about his marriage." Olivia whispered, "You think he was cheating?" "I'd bet on it." Her friend snapped, "That's ridiculous. Austin's not. He wouldn't. He's not screwing around on me." I didn't argue, but the fact spoke louder than her denial. The commissioner looked at me and I said, "I didn't lay a finger on Austin, and I know the boys didn't either," I said. "But that doesn't change the fact that both you and the boys had motive, means, and opportunity." Olivia looked horrified, but I kept going. "Honestly, though, I think the more likely suspect is the husband of the woman Austin's been messing around with. What worries me most is that if this guy did that to Austin, his own wife might be in real danger." I told Austin the same thing, but he played dumb, insisting he didn't know anything. Karen's eyes welled up with tears. "I just can't believe it. He wouldn't." "Maybe not. I can't say for sure if he's been unfaithful to you, but it's the most plausible explanation." He denied it when I asked, "But if he's lying, there's a woman out there who could be getting hurt, or worse, because he wouldn't come clean. If he just told me the truth, maybe I could have warned her. But now? It's too late." On the drive home, my wife was quiet for a while before she asked, "Do you think most men would go after both their cheating wife and her lover?" "I don't know about most men," I replied, "but I'll tell you straight. If you ever cheated on me, there's no doubt in my mind I'd go after the guy. Just like whoever went after Austin. I wouldn't kill him, but I'd make sure he felt the damage for the rest of his miserable life." She glanced at me, eyebrows raised. "So, you'd attack him, but not me?" "Yeah, I wouldn't hit you, or any woman, for that matter. But I'd sure as hell throw you out and make the divorce as miserable as possible." Olivia chuckled nervously. "Why? You thinking of getting a little strange on me?" "Of course not," she snapped. "I was thinking about my friend and Austin, not us." Life settled back into its routine after that. Austin's situation had nothing to do with us, and we let it fade into the background. But one evening, curiosity got the better of me. "So, how's Mark Wolf doing these days?" I asked casually. "Do you work with him much? Sit with him at lunch or anything?" Karen's face hardened. "Since you dislike Mark so much, I've decided not to upset you by talking about him. Does that make you happy?" "Not even a little," I replied, leaning back in my chair. "And I'm glad you brought it up. First off, let's be clear. I wasn't the one who got upset last time. You stormed off to the bedroom and left me with the dishes, remember? Seems like Mark means more to you than to me." She rolled her eyes, but I pressed on. "And yeah, you're right. I've never met the guy. But if you recall, all I said weeks ago was based on my experience with new managers, not some personal vendetta. What concerns me now is your attitude. The fact that you're hiding details about what goes on between you and Mark makes me wonder why you feel the need to hide anything. Her face turned red. Oh, for God's sake. I can't believe you're accusing me of— Relax, I cut in. I'm not accusing you of anything. I meant intercourse in the old-fashioned, benign sense, like conversation or business dealings. Yeah, I used the word to provoke you, but my point still stands. Marriage is built on trust. I expect the same honesty from you that I hold myself to. I leaned forward, locking eyes with her. You know my passwords. You've seen my call logs. I've got nothing to hide. I'm always where I say I'll be, with who I say I'm with, and always reachable. Because I've got nothing to cover up, and I expect the same from you. Olivia crossed her arms. See? There you go again. Accusing me of cheating? I'm not accusing you of anything, Olivia. But if you keep acting defensive, it's not a great look. She huffed. Keep this up, and it might just happen. I blinked. What might just happen? You heard me, she snapped. You're not going to treat me like this. Get off your high horse, Olivia, and have an honest conversation. I'm not saying you're cheating. I'm saying that if we don't tell each other the whole truth, little lies stack up into big ones. And before you know it, our entire marriage is built on bullshit. She glared, but I wasn't done. If I told you I had dinner with colleague from the Bridgeville job, but left out the part where 2 women joined us at the bar after, that's lying by omission. It's not just what I say, it's what I leave out. And if you found out later, you'd start asking yourself why I didn't mention it. What was I hiding? Was I messing around? Olivia's jaw clenched. I don't see why I have to ask your permission, or even tell you who I have lunch with. You're being controlling and unreasonable. It's just business. It's not about permission, I shot back. It's about transparency. If we can't talk about who we interact with at work, what the hell do we talk about? She shook her head. You're acting like our marriage is in trouble. It is in trouble, Olivia. Right now. Silence. Married people don't put themselves in situations where there's even a shadow of doubt about their fidelity, I continued. If there's nothing to hide, then why not just mention it? Before or after the fact, I don't care. Just don't leave it out. She rolled her eyes again. Oh, this is rich. Think of your reputation. Huh? What is this, the 1800s? Give me a break. Business isn't about fun. Although, apparently, that's hard for you to believe. I didn't flinch. Here's all I'm asking. Go to lunch with whoever you want. But be honest about it. Tell me when. Tell me who. If you feel like it, tell me what you talked about. That's it. She glared for a beat, then muttered, Fine. I'll do that. Happy? That's all I asked for in the first place. A few nights later, I came home from work to find Olivia's office laptop sitting open on the dining table. Her email inbox was up. I hesitated. Was reading her emails crossing a line? Maybe. But emails are meant to be read, just maybe not by me. I sat down and started scrolling. Turns out, she and Mark had been having lunch about once a week. Nothing blatantly inappropriate, just casual conversations about work, deadlines, projects. But Thursday seemed to be their day, and something about that felt off. I was ready. This was the moment when everything would come to light, when suspicion would meet reality. Their usual lunch spot was a renovated old hotel before it got a facelift. I sat in the lobby, the perfect picture of an unnoticed stranger. A fake beard, an old black suit my dad once owned, and, don't laugh, some strips of black plastic taped to my eyeglass frames to change their shape. To top it off, I'd found a fedora in a thrift shop. It was the kind of get-up that made me look more like an oddball than someone anyone would pay attention to. And that was the point. I was buried in a newspaper when they arrived, Olivia and Mark, walking in hand. My heart sank, like I'd been punched in the chest without warning. I'd scoped the place earlier. The bar was too open, too public for anything discreet, but the restaurant was tucked away just enough to allow for whispers meant to be secrets. Neither of them stopped at the hotel counter, which told me all I needed to know. If anything more was planned beyond lunch, Mark had already taken care of the arrangements. I tried to act casual, ordered a sandwich at the bar to avoid standing out. Between bites, I checked on them once. No over-the-top displays, just subtle touches, lingering hand-holding across the table. But Olivia's face told the real story. Flushed cheeks, constant smiles, laughing at things that probably weren't that funny. She wasn't just enjoying lunch. She was enchanted. After I finished eating, I returned to the lobby, pretending to read, though my mind was anything but focused. I almost missed them when they walked past, Olivia's laughter cutting through the air like a blade. They stopped in front of the elevator, standing close, arms wrapped around each other. That was my cue. I moved quickly, slipping into the elevator just as the doors were closing. I stood behind them, heart pounding in my chest like a war drum. Mark had his arm around her, oblivious to the fact that I was inches away. They were so caught up in their little bubble, they didn't even notice me. Olivia was gushing about how thrilling this all felt, her voice a soft hum of excitement. Mark chuckled, trying to keep her quiet, but clearly enjoying the attention. I stood silently, eyes fixed on the floor indicator, adrenaline flooding my system. I wasn't there to cause a scene. I wasn't going to start shouting or throwing punches. I wanted something else, the truth. As we reached the 10th floor, they stepped out, and I followed at a distance, my footsteps light, my breath steady despite the storm inside me. They headed down the hall, laughing like teenagers sneaking around. I stayed back, close enough to hear their voices but hidden just enough to avoid being seen. When they reached the door to a room, Olivia fumbled with the keycard. I stepped forward. Having fun? I said quietly. They froze. Olivia spun around, her face draining of color faster than I'd thought possible. Mark looked confused at first, then recognition flickered in his eyes. Mark. Olivia's voice was barely a whisper. I didn't shout. I didn't rage. I just stood there, calm on the outside, a volcano underneath. So this is what business lunches look like now? Mark tried to step in, probably to say something smooth, but I raised my hand. Don't. I'm not here to listen to your excuses. The silence was suffocating. Olivia stumbled over her words, trying to explain something, anything. But the words didn't matter. The truth was already laid bare in front of me. I hope it was worth it, I said softly, turning to leave. I didn't need to fight Mark. The truth hit harder than any punch ever could. Back home, I sat in the quiet, letting everything sink in. I didn't pack bags or smash dishes. Instead, I poured myself a glass of the expensive wine Olivia had been saving for a special occasion. I figured this counted. And as I sat there, sipping slowly, I realized something. I wasn't broken. I was free.